Heidi herself was last seen on October 17th, 2021. During the afternoon, she attended her son's football game at his private school, and her ex-husband, Jim Wayne, reported that during the game, Heidi seemed distracted and antsy. But when Heidi didn't call or text that evening to say goodnight to her son, and she was unresponsive to texts and calls from her son, Jim began to worry. But Jim said, maybe his ex-wife was busy, or maybe she had taken the opportunity to fly to San Francisco and visit with a man she had been dating. Heidi's boyfriend's name is Naeem Salam, and he is actually the VP of operations for Mark Zuckerberg's charitable foundation, the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. Heidi's ex-husband Jim mentioned that Heidi and Naeem had recently argued because Heidi wanted him to come and visit her more often in LA, but he told her he couldn't make it as often as she wanted and as he wanted because he worked a lot in LA and San Francisco. Jim Wayne did say that Heidi's boyfriend, Naeem, is a good guy. He doesn't suspect him at all, and Naeem seemed clueless about the fact that Heidi was missing. He just assumed that she was upset with him because they'd had a little bit of an argument, and she was ghosting him when he tried calling and texting her. So the last time Heidi was seen was on surveillance footage taken outside her home on October 17th after she had left the football game. You can see her on this footage. She's walking out of her house. Looks like she's wearing jeans, a t-shirt, and what seems to be a gray sweater or sweatshirt tied around her waist. She's holding an iced drink, maybe an iced tea or an iced coffee. She's carrying her purse, and her little dog Seven is following behind her. She and Seven get into her gray Range Rover, and they drive away. A few hours later, the dog Seven was found in the most unexpected of places, miles away from Heidi's home, on the 28th floor of a luxury high-rise apartment in downtown Los Angeles. This is called the Hope and Flower Complex. From the reports that have emerged thus far, no one knows how Seven would be in that building. And if there's a connection to Heidi, it hasn't been revealed yet. From what I've seen, her friends and family all say, we don't understand why she would have been there. We don't know if she knows anybody there. We've never heard her talk about going there. So someone must have either brought Seven, the dog, into the building and to the 28th floor. This is the question that's burning in their heads. Like, how did this dog get there? Where's the connection to Heidi? Retired San Bernardino Police Chief Jared Bouguan feels that Seven being found in the building without Heidi is concerning. And he said, quote, "People are very, very attached to their pets, and their pets do not just go missing. There's clearly something out of place here," end quote. A friend of Heidi's told CBS, quote, "It seems to us that everything stems from that building where her dog was found," end quote. And I agree. This is creepy. This is actually really, really sad because the son celebrated his 11th birthday after Heidi went missing. And a lot of people thought, maybe if Heidi's out there hiding or she left of her own free will or, she's MIA on purpose, she'll come back for his 11th birthday because she loves him. Like, this is her entire world, this kid. So she'll be back. When she didn't come back on his birthday, everybody was very, disappointed, but also more scared. Now it seemed like whatever was keeping Heidi away from home and from her son was against her will. No one who knows Heidi believes that she just took off and ran away of her own free will. Her son was her life. She loved him endlessly. She was completely devoted to him. Additionally, Heidi had spoken to her mother and some family members a few days before she disappeared, and they talked about her coming home for Thanksgiving. Heidi's cousin, Trey Hawkins, said, quote, "She also spoke to my other aunt and told her that she was coming home and wanted to see them all. Nothing was out of the ordinary in those chats. There was no indication that anything was wrong. The fact that my cousin was planning to come home for Thanksgiving shows she was making plans just days before she disappeared." Apparently, she had texted him in the days before she went missing about being scared of something. And I don't know the specifics of this text. I'm sure that Heidi had texted more to Naeem than "I'm scared." I'm sure she gave some specifics or at least some reasons of why she was scared, but they have not released that yet. After this happened, Jim Wayne, Heidi's ex-husband, spoke to Jason Sugarman's assistant on the phone, and he claimed that Sugarman did not seem concerned at all with where Heidi was or if she was okay. He seemed mainly worried about her laptop, where it was. Jim Wayne said, quote, "While I was on the phone with his assistant, I heard Sugarman in the background barking at his assistant to tell me, make sure he knows I want my laptop. There was no concern at all from my ex-wife's employer. It's a multi-million-dollar company. They didn't offer to hire a private investigator or put up a reward. The only thing they seemed really concerned about was Heidi's computer," end quote. Jim Wayne spoke to Sugarman's assistant a few days later, and at that point he claims that this assistant accused Heidi of stealing money from Camden Capital, their company. Well, Jim Wayne had already given Heidi's laptop to the police, and he was also told by law enforcement, who apparently went through Heidi's financial records, that Heidi did not have a lot of money in her accounts. Jim Wayne said, quote, "It's pretty low of Sugarman and his minions to accuse Heidi of basically embezzling when she's mysteriously disappeared," end quote. Very low of Sugarman and his minions to do that. I agree. Jim also mentioned that Heidi had been Sugarman's personal assistant for several years before she was promoted to bookkeeper, and she, quote, "knows all of Jason's and the company's secrets. She knows where the bones are buried. This whole thing just stinks. Something isn't right, and I can't put my finger on it," end quote. And let's talk about surveillance footage. We have Heidi seen on her home surveillance system leaving her house on October 17th, and this same surveillance system captured her boss, Jason Sugarman, stopping by her house a few days after she went missing. And I'm sure you have questions about the surveillance footage from the Hope and Flower apartment complex, the building that Heidi's dog Seven was found wandering around on October 17th on the 28th floor. Surely, such a secure apartment building, who are so concerned about security measures, they'll have like security cameras everywhere, and surely that footage would give us an indication of how Seven got into the building and who he was with. Now, just recently, the Robbery and Homicide Division of the LAPD, they were able to eventually seize the surveillance footage from the building after they got a warrant after weeks of non-cooperation from the owners of this building, but they haven't released what or if they found anything on it, and I think it's pretty likely that after all that time, I think it was 2.5 weeks, that the Omni Group was like, no, we're not going to show you this footage. The relevant footage that the police need may have been recorded over by now. And we saw this with the case of Phoebe Hansjuk, who died in the trash chute of this very, high-rise luxury apartment building in Australia. When the police were finally able to get their hands on the surveillance footage, a lot of the relevant information had been recorded over because most surveillance cameras and systems sort of function on a loop. So they'll record for, 72-hour period or a week period, and then it'll go back over and start recording over that to save space. So this is pretty much all we know. They have Heidi's computer, her phone. They'll know who she was talking to. They'll know what she was saying. They'll know what she was doing with work, because it appears that the laptop the FBI took was her work computer from Camden Capital, the one that Jason Sugarman wanted back. So they know a lot right now, and the fact that they are being so quiet about it makes me feel that they are zeroing in on somebody. And why was Jason Sugarman at Heidi's house after she went missing, leaving muffins when he knew that she was missing? In my opinion, and this is not saying that he's guilty, because who knows if he was involved or not. He could just be, kind of a scumbag when it comes to securities fraud and not be somebody who would take part in, a woman going missing at all. But in my theory, in my true crime writer brain, what if Jason Sugarman went there, rang the doorbell, left the muffins, because he was trying to make it look like he didn't know she was missing, that he thought she would be home? Because if he didn't know that she was missing and he would drive all the way over to her house to pay her a visit and leave her muffins, then he obviously had nothing to do with her disappearance, because he didn't even know she was missing because he dropped muffins off for her. Now, I would like to know, has Jason Sugarman been to that house before? Is he a regular visitor to Heidi's home? Is he often bringing over muffins? Do you know the Muffin Man? I would be interested to know if this was his normal behavior, if he just kind of dropped over at Heidi's often with breakfast foods and, a friendly conversation. Covering these cases, we've seen more unbelievable things than that. Now, Jim Wayne said that Heidi would have worked with Sugarman daily in her position, and she knew where the bones were buried. And that's very significant. That's either Jim Wayne trying to cast doubt off of him and onto Sugarman, or while they were married, Jim and Heidi did tell him things about what she was doing at the company, or tell him things about how often she saw Jason Sugarman, how often they interacted. So he knows that she knows something. but Jim just doesn't know what Heidi knows. Some people online speculate that maybe Heidi could be in witness protection. Maybe she is working with the SEC and the FBI to testify against Jason Sugarman, so they want to keep her hidden in the process. But if that's the case, then why was the SEC calling Jim Wayne and asking him about Jason Sugarman when they could just ask Heidi, who would actually know these things? And why was the FBI in her house taking her files and her laptop? Clearly, they don't have her, in my opinion, or they would just be able to ask her these things, or they would have said, hey, you're going into witness protection, leave your phone because we don't want you to be tracked, but make sure you bring all relevant work documents that we're going to be using in this case, in this trial. So I don't think that's it. She's missing, and I worry that she's encountered foul play. She's been missing for a couple weeks now. Her car hasn't been found. She hasn't been found. No sign of her. She didn't come home for her son's 11th birthday. She hasn't called. She hasn't reached out. It does really look as if somebody took her. But it also looks to me as if she left that house knowing she was meeting somebody that day. Who was she meeting that day? And that's important. She left her cell phone at home, I think purposely, specifically, most likely because she was told to leave her cell phone at home. So she was meeting with somebody that she either trusted or just didn't think or consider that they could have an intention of hurting her. But I do think she left the house knowing she was meeting with somebody. We don't know where she went. She wasn't seen after that. She hasn't been seen after that. And she left her cell phone at home. And then her dog turns up in this high-rise luxury apartment building in downtown LA, just yards away from the Staples Center, where the Golden State Warriors play. I'm just going to put that out there. I know. It's crazy. Crazy connection, right? But may have nothing to do with anything, but it's not lost on me. And I know I'm talking to a bunch of smart people out there, and I know it's not lost on you either. Something sketchy is going down here. When you have men and women, it's 2021, when you have men and women who are wealthy, in high positions of power, who feel that they are, almost godlike in their ability to manipulate people, trick people, pull the wool over people's eyes, steal from them without getting caught, without repercussions. It's a recipe for disaster because now they pretty much feel like they can get away with anything because they've already gotten away with so much. And I'm really, really worried about Heidi. I will end this by saying I really hope she comes home. I hope she comes home for the sake of her son, who I know right now is wrecked, probably just completely devastated.